Welcome, beautiful people, to the first ever Bitcoin Future 2020 online conference. I am extremely happy and proud that we are here live. Just need to figure out quickly the setup because we are on 2 streams, but let me welcome you all. And of course, you can maybe imagine that it's especially great day for us here organizing this the past weeks, because we had the pleasure to meet a lot of really great speakers, worked for a month to pull this off, and now today is the final day where finally we get to launch this all and we get to invite you all. So I'm really happy and excited, like a little boy on Christmas evening, because you know, it's just beautiful to finally launch it. And our mission is to launch this and to ship it and to deliver it to you, because the whole thing started with a mission, and this mission is to spread education, to help people understand what's going on, and to make a Christmas gift also. And for this reason, we said, okay, why don't we launch an online conference where we bring the best speakers of the Bitcoin Twitter, of the Bitcoin universe together, people such as Adam Back, Tone Bays, Giacomo Zucco, Stefan Livera, and we asked them what they believe the future will look like for Bitcoin. How will they see Bitcoin in the next year? I mean, obviously, if you are on Bitcoin Twitter, then probably you know quite well what's going on. You're informed about the stock to flow model. You know the halvening date on the exact date, and so forth, and you know all these technical details. The problem is that a lot of people don't know anything about that. So at some point this year, a few weeks ago, I got a message from someone, and he said, "Yeah, you know, what do you think? When will Bitcoin go to zero? When should I cash out before it goes to zero?" And I was a bit surprised, you know, that there was such a lack of understanding. And it seems though that this is a big problem. Too many people don't know enough. They have a big deficit in terms of understanding what Bitcoin really is about, why it has value. And I mean, I can understand it. There's nothing, this is of course obvious because it is a complex field and there's a lot of misinformation around also. And that's our mission. We wanna close that gap. We wanna close the gap between the complex world, the difficult to understand world between Bitcoin Twitter, and break it down and make it simple, so that normal people have a chance to learn. And yeah, so that's where we are. And it has been quite a ride, of course, for us to organize it, but now it's here, now it's live. I'm not entirely sure how many people are already following. So if you see this right now, you could do us quite a big favor by simply going on our Twitter page, which is Bitcoin let me check this here. So what do I see? So yeah, if you go on our Twitter channel, if you have Twitter, of course. If not, you can simply you can simply share our website, bitcoinclub.mt. If you are on Twitter, you could do us a big favor if you go on Bitcoin at bitcoinclub.mt, our Twitter handle, and you will see our pinned post, which is our bombastic invite to everyone to get a free ticket. And you can share that. You can retweet it. You can send it to friends. You can also send it to business partners, for example, or colleagues or clients of yours, and make them a little Christmas gift. Of course, also your grandmother or other family relative that should know about Bitcoin. That's our mission. So send them a link to the conference, say, look, I know that you may have some opinion about Bitcoin. Maybe you judge it in a certain way, but here's something that doesn't cost you anything. Here's something where you don't have to lose anything. And you can simply join for free and then have the pleasure to learn from over 40 Bitcoin speakers, over 40 experts, world-leading experts, so to say, because they truly are. And it doesn't cost anything. There's nothing to lose, but there's a big upside. Almost similar to Bitcoin saving, where you have, of course, you have a certain risk, right, to when the price goes down. But if the price goes up, then there's a huge benefit. So let us sort out the final things. I'm now embedding the live stream on our website as well, so you can see it's like a one main show here, or actually two main show. And so bear with us if not everything is as smooth as you might expect. But it's the first one, so we worked really diligently to make this a success, and so we're really happy that you are on board. Now, we already had plans, or already developed plans for the next year. Possibly we will launch the Bitcoin Future. Maybe we also call it differently. Probably we will have the next one on the halving day in May, but it's not set yet. That was kind of our first idea, and that means that, yeah, this is a long-term thing. So we're really grateful that everyone who watches now is actually on board, because it means a lot, of course. You know, if you develop something or put something out, the feedback is important. The trust that you give us is important to us. And yeah, in a few minutes we should be able to, hopefully, because of course if you have a live agenda, things can be disrupted, but hopefully in a few minutes we will have our first guest here, and it will be Didi Taihuttu, who some of you might know as well. And he is, of course, an interesting character, a traveler, a family man also, and a Bitcoiner. And he will share his story, how he decided to go basically all in with Bitcoin, not just financially, but also like from a mindset, from a lifestyle perspective. And we will have a nice chat. You can see the full agenda on our agenda link, which is linked on the main page, and also, of course, on the conference page itself. So if you look at the agenda, you will find a schedule for the live stream today, which will go a couple of hours. It will be quite fun. I think it will be a lot of speakers coming in and out. And besides that, you can explore our virtual stages. We have 4 virtual stages and a bonus stage. And there you will find all the contributions, all the speakers, all the presentations. We have really great presentations for example, for for products also. We showcase some Lightning apps. We have, for example, Nunu from Satoshi Games telling his story, how he went to build a Lightning game. And of course, our kind of like our keynote speakers, Adam Back, Giacomo Zucco, Tone Bass, all of those guys are there to find for you to explore. And the good thing is that it's very convenient. So you don't need to run for a speaker. You don't need to change the door. You don't need to change the room. You don't even have to look at the agenda because it won't run away. You can simply, in your own time, at your own convenience, from home, from your hopefully comfortable couch or office place, select the presentation that you would like to watch, and then just tune in and see what you can see there. And ideally also, because we have so many interesting contributions, you may want to help us again. And if you find an interesting talk or presentation, you can share it with someone by, again, retweeting our link on Twitter, our pinned post on Twitter. I seem to have a problem here embedding the live stream, so unfortunately, let us change this. We just put it on YouTube. So let's hope that Didi is on board in a bit. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in our Telegram chat or in our conference forum, which is on the bottom of the page, of the welcome page, basically. We might be a bit busy. However, we try our best to reply in due time. If you have any questions, you can also, of course, like the main goal here is that we have a vibrant discussion. So what is your opinion on Bitcoin's future next year? What do you think will happen on the halving day? Will Bitcoin tank or will it go up? And what reactions do you expect will come from regulatory bodies? Maybe what innovations are you excited for next year? How do you see adoption going forward? And all these things that are, I think, important to process and to metabolize and to give to the outer world. So let's see if Didi is on board. We will share during the day. We'll share a little bit about the backstory as well. So cool. Didi is ready. Let's see if he can come inside. Didi is there. Okay, admit. Hey, Didi. I think you're muted. Wait, I have to unmute. All right. Hey, Didi, how are you doing?
Hi, man. I'm great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Where are you at the moment?
At the moment, I am in Sardinia.
Oh, beautiful.
Italy. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful country, beautiful island. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Didi, welcome to Bitcoin Future 2020. Welcome on board. I hope you have a nice shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Is this your official branding?
Yeah, that's the official new logo of the Bitcoin family. It was branded like a few months ago. This beautiful Mexican Amsterdam-based duo created the new logo for us, and yeah, this is the result. Yeah.
Wow. So this is like family members, right? And
It's 5 family members, but it's like a logo that can evolve. So it's not a logo that is static. It's like a moving logo. So we hope to create a huge Bitcoin family all over the world that shares and cares for other people and just not is there to accumulate wealth. So yeah, it's a cool logo to evolve with time.
yeah, awesome. I'm still trying to figure out my Zoom setup because I'm here in two pictures. It's not ideal, but yeah, I'm not sure if I'll manage. So Didi, let's talk a bit. What would you like to talk about actually?
Oh man, I love to talk about everything. You know, it's we can talk about life, we can talk about Bitcoin, we can talk about what needs to be changed in this community. We can talk about so many things. Um, Whatever you like, you know. I love to freestyle. So just, you know, I'm not this guy that prepares for those things. So just
Yeah, no, the same. You know, it's not prepared. I mean, I have a few questions, but I think we can. What you mentioned is, I think, is good. I think so. It's Christmas, right? And Bitcoiners come home to their families. So, what is do you think a good way to get someone excited about Bitcoin on Christmas evening?
Jesus, that's a good one. You know, there are so many people now doing great things for you. You know, buy Bitcoin for Christmas. I think Joe Blackburn is starting this website. Um, in Holland, I just did a post. You know, you can buy these Bitcoin gift cards. You know, you just give somebody 25 euros worth of Bitcoin with a gift card, and then with this gift card, they need to install this Bitcoin app, and they receive 25 euros of Bitcoin. So that's a nice introduction and a very simple way, you know, to get people on board into Bitcoin. You know, you just force them, like like the
I have a
government.
better idea. How about we share a link to this conference?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
So that was our idea, you know, like we just why can I not, 1 second. Yeah. So the idea was that instead of, you know, like you cannot convince people of something. I think that's true for since the very first human, right? Like you cannot tell, like, look, you should buy Bitcoin because, like, the only way it works is if somebody has an intrinsic motivation, if somebody understands why it maybe matters for him. And a good teacher is someone that is able to enlight that fire, right? And I think what helps here is a great story. So I'm mostly inspired by, you know, amazing stories or interesting stories of people where I say, wow, like this is interesting, this makes sense. So how about you share your story, how you decided to leave Netherlands behind and go full with Bitcoin?
Yeah, you know, first of all, I do not completely agree with you on this. You know, at first time it was okay, cool for people to get into Bitcoin because they are Bitcoin minded. But now we need to get, you know, the huge amount of people that are not interested in Bitcoin at all on board. And you know, I don't mean like to force people, but you can on a very creative way give people Bitcoins and show them why it's important to have it, why they, you know, if they have their own private keys, nobody can take it of them else. But I agree with you that, you know, to reach the mass audience, we need stories, um, we need more emotion than just technical talks. So if you want me to do the story about my trip, yeah, I will do it. It's for me, it all started in 2002 when my mother died when she was 48 years old. I couldn't cope with those feelings. I became a workaholic. In 12 years' times, I built up 2 very successful companies. I had a huge house. I had like a holiday house. I had my cars. I had my Jeep Cherokee, my Cabriolet. My kids had everything they wanted. Till Christmas 2014, and that my father calls me and he's like, Didi, I have some bad news. I just came from the hospital. I have 1 more year to live. So again, I was confronted with a parent dying. So I hired some managers to run the companies. I stopped the Bitcoin mining part. I started in 2013 because you have the crash and everything. And I just started to focus on my father. You spent all the last things with your father, the last Christmas, last Easter, last time watching a football match, last time watching a video, a movie, all those things I spent 2015 doing with my father. And that was a very stressful and emotional time. And then in 2016 January, my father dies. So at that point in life, I was still running the hamster wheel and wanting to become a millionaire before I was 40. That was my goal in life, becoming a millionaire and have all those, materialistic stuff that I will be happy. This is what they taught me on school. Didi, make sure you make a lot of money, make sure you have a huge house, make sure you have huge cars, make sure you impress other people, and then you're happy. So when he died, he was 60. My mother died when she was 48. So I quickly realized life could go very fast. And I was running the hamster wheel, not seeing my kids. My kids were already at that point 10, 8, and 6 years old. I didn't see them grow up. So I decided I needed to see them grow up. So what, because of arranging the funeral and the inheritance with all the fights about money again also in the family, I was struck by a huge burnout. So I need to stop working, I need to go and reset myself, and I did this in Thailand. So I told the family we are going to travel a few months to Thailand. I need a reset, I need to reconnect with my family, and etc. And in Thailand we started this trip, and after 3 months we extended the trip to 7 months. And then at a certain moment we were in Bali, and in Bali, this guy calls me again. He's like, Didi, do you still own your Bitcoins and your Litecoins and your Dogecoins? I said, yeah. I said, of course, but I'm not into checking them now, man. I'm enjoying the beach with my kids and the Bacardi Coke. But he kept persuading me. So at the end, I checked the coins and I saw the value increasing. And that's when I grabbed my laptop and started to, join the forums and check what was happening. And I saw this community was growing. I saw the price increasing, and I realized that this was the first time in my life that I was really happy, because I was together with my family on the beach, not stressing about work and money, just living out of 5 backpacks, traveling around the world, made me the most happy guy in the world. And it made my family happy as well. So that was the point. I went to my wife and I told her, what do you think of this? We just keep living like this. We sell the house, we sell the cars, we sell everything we have. We go all into Bitcoin, support this monetary revolution, which is going to change the world and have a very huge social economic impact. And let's do this. And of course, my wife had some questions about that, but in the end, she agreed on the fact that we needed to educate our kids that accumulating wealth was not the goal of life, just living. So that's exactly what we did. And that's exactly why we flew home, sold the house, sold everything we owned, and literally everything, my pension funds, my kids' savings, everything. And we went all into Bitcoin and living on a campsite. And then the media found out, and yeah, we were bombed to the Bitcoin family. And interviews came from flying over from Wall Street, from they came from Australia, Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, all over the world flew to our campsite to interview us. So we got sick of the attention. We escaped again to the beach in Thailand. We were like, we are going to take it easy. At that point, this Russian guy comes to me with his phone. He's like, are you this guy? And yeah, can I make a selfie with you? And I'm like laughing, the selfie with me. My kids start laughing. Dad, what the fuck does he want? He wants a selfie. So we make the selfie. He posts the selfie online. And before you know it, there's a huge company from Germany, Arte Television, flies over to make a documentary. And at that point, we again are bombed by the media. And at that point, we are, as a family, we get together and we discuss, what are we going to do? Are we going to refuse this brand of the Bitcoin family? Or are we going to accept that they bomb us to the Bitcoin family and use it to improve or change the world? So that is what we accepted. We told each other, let's try it. Let's give it a go. Accept we are a Bitcoin family, make some money with it, share this money with people all over the world that really need it. And that is exactly what we have been doing now for 2.5 years. And that is exactly what has been making us very happy family. Not the wealth, but the sharing. And this is what we as the Bitcoin family, as a brand, try to tell other people. It's not always about money. It's also about helping people. It's also about sharing. It's also about educating other people in the world that really need Bitcoin. We don't need Bitcoin. You don't need Bitcoin. Most of the audience doesn't need Bitcoin. They all have their credit cards. They all have their bank cards. They all have their PayPal, they all have that shit, you know. The people that don't have access to those things, to PayPal, to your bank account, to your credit card, to all that stuff, those people need Bitcoin. Those people in Venezuela, those people in Zimbabwe, those people soon in many other countries will really need Bitcoin. And this is exactly what I try to educate people about. Not that you can become a millionaire out of it, but that you can use it to change other people's lives. And this is exactly what we teach our children as well, and what our children experience, you know. We do it by practical examples. Let my kid send money to her nephew in Indonesia. How? Send €5 with your bank account. Your nephew in Indonesia doesn't have a bank account. He's a son of a fisherman. They don't have bank accounts over there. Send your with Western Union €5. The costs are this high that this kid will not receive anything. This is how I showed my kids. Okay, then now try it with Bitcoin. Here, there's a beautiful solution with Facebook Messenger and Telegram. If your nephew opens this Bitcoin wallet through Facebook Messenger or Telegram, you can send him €5 of Bitcoin in a few seconds. And they did. And that's how you educate your kids, by leading by example. And that is what a lot of people should change in their lives. They should lead by example. A lot of people talk to talk, but they don't walk to walk, especially in crypto. Everybody knows best. Everybody owns shitloads of Bitcoins and knows what Bitcoin is going to do up, down. They don't own Bitcoin. They talk to talk. And I think we as a family, we walk the walk. We really live solely on cryptocurrency. We don't have any bank accounts. We find very creative solutions to use Bitcoin in different ways. Of course, we need to, because Bitcoin is not accepted everywhere in the world yet. But slowly, you can see this change all over the world. So that was the short version of my story. So hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. It's very interesting that you mentioned also like the starting point of your kind of, you had this wake up moment, right?
Yeah.
So I think many Bitcoiners, they also, like, everybody has his own, motivation to do it. I think most of them have some sort of meaning in, right? So do you think what is kind of the motivation for someone to learn about Bitcoin? I think it's still very important, because you mentioned, like, of course, becoming rich is not really making you happy. Like, if you're into Bitcoin, to just become a millionaire is probably the wrong motivation. But isn't it? Don't you think it's still like a good trigger in the beginning that people can say, hey, yeah, when Bitcoin goes up, that kind of confronts a lot of people with this new paradigm of money?
Yeah, of course. I totally agree with it, but that's not the goal. I think the goal, the end goal for those people, is not the that they become rich. I think most people in the world are searching for freedom. It's not millions. They search for freedom. They don't want to work 9 to 5 jobs. They don't want to spend all their time listening to bosses they don't want to listen to, or spend time with people they don't want to hang out with. They want freedom. They want to do whatever they want, whenever they can, on every day in their life. And this is the goal for many people. And yeah, Bitcoin is a beautiful tool to reach this freedom. Yes, you can become financially independent because of Bitcoin. But don't think that will be in like 2 months. Don't think that will be in 3 months. Don't think that if you start trading today, you are a millionaire tomorrow. That's not for everybody. That's just for a few people that have no emotions. Those people are the best traders. Those people will make shitload of money. Most people are too emotional to trade, man. They will lose. So for me, yeah, it is a drive for people to step into this world. But I think the goal for this drive is to reach freedom. Freedom to travel, freedom to live where they want, freedom to choose what they want, freedom to not send your kid to school if you don't want to. All these kinds of freedom. And I think Bitcoin is giving us all kinds of freedom in all kinds of different ways. Economical freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of many things. And this is, I think, what we need to educate people. But some people will step into this world because of making money. Some people will step into it because they love blockchain and how it's decentralizing, for example, the real estate industry. Some people will step into this industry because they love how it is decentralizing. Um, there are so many industries being decentralized. Sports, everybody gets into this because of their passion. Somebody loves soccer, they will choose a soccer coin, socios, for example. Somebody loves real estate, they will step into crypto because of this real estate project. But in the end, you all need to understand that we are all fighting for the same. We want to decentralize the world. We want to take away the power of the people that are controlling us at the moment. And I think that needs to be the goal. And if we all work together, we will reach this goal. If we all start to fight with each other, we will just be the copy of the human race as it has been all over the time. People make us fight. Do you really think that the Bitcoin Cash community, the Bitcoin community, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision community really wants to fight? I don't know why they are fighting. We all have the same goal. And yeah, somebody will use Bitcoin Cash, somebody will use Bitcoin, somebody will use Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, somebody will use Litecoin. What the fuck does it matter? We are all in it together. We are all in it to fight this disruption of the economical system together. And I think that is exactly what we need to do. And and if people feel inspired by a story like mine, or feel inspired by people that made a shitload of money because of trading, that's cool. Get in, help us
Yeah.
change the world.
So maybe you could. We have another guest now joining here. Welcome, Santiago. But one last thing I would like to know from Didi. Of course, you can also just join, stay on board here. We just have a little panel. So Didi, how does a usual day look for you as the family man of the Bitcoin family? Like, do you have a morning routine where, I mean, you travel a lot, right? So do you go to the beach? What are your favorite places at the moment in the world?
So every day is different. We are the most unstructured, unplanned family you will ever meet. We change idea and plans every day. And sometimes we go to the beach, and sometimes we just hang out in our apartment. We are, of course, we love the beach. I love Thailand. I love Indonesia. I love those countries because crypto is really adopted over there. People they really accept my Bitcoins for hotels, for bars, restaurants, everywhere over there. It's just a normal day. We are a family. The only difference between me and many other families is that we don't have a house. We have a van. We travel the world, and we educate our kids in a different way. We get up, we do our sports, we do breakfast, we educate our kids, we go visit some beautiful places in the world. Sometimes I spend a week in a hammock if I want to, and I just reflect on life by just enjoying the sun, the sea, and the beach. And sometimes I am in Las Vegas, and then I need to work like 5 days in a row, and it's just one big adventure, crypto adventure, and I just it makes life so much more easy if you don't have anything to worry about every day, like a house, like a mortgage, like huge bank accounts, all that stuff. If you don't have to worry about it, and you just travel and you just live on a few K a month, life is I think life is a blessing at that point, and at the same time, you educate a lot of people in doing the same. I hope to educate a lot of people in doing the same. Just escape the hamster wheel, the red race.
For sure. We can definitely talk more about it. I think it's very interesting. So maybe let's introduce Santiago Molins. You're still muted. Do I have to unmute you? Oh no, you're there.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. How is it going?
Yeah, going really well. It's 8 a.m. here in Florida. What time is it at your place?
It's 10:30, 30 in the morning. So I am here in Patagonia.
Oh, wow. So introduce yourself for those who don't know you. Who are you? What are you doing? What was your way into Bitcoin? And why are you in Patagonia at the moment?
Okay, no, I'm just passing through. I'm just visiting. Well, okay, as you probably know, Patagonia is in Argentina, but also in Chile. I am in Argentinian part because I am Argentinian. Well, you probably know that Argentina had and has several issues, economical issues. And I think that's probably the reason, because I heard about Bitcoin in my daily basis. But I also hear about Bitcoin because my background is in technology. So basically, I knew the money was broken before Bitcoin. because I lived that. That was not a big surprise for me. Some people understood that after Bitcoin. For example, I remember when I was 11 years old, we crossed with a group of friends to Chile, walking, crossing the Andes. And when we want to change pesos against national Chilean currency, we couldn't. We couldn't because that same day, the government of Argentina froze the bank accounts. And we didn't know it because we were in the middle of the mountain. So I was very young, only 11 years old, and I remember that very, very well. And then I noticed, okay, some currencies work, some other currencies do not work. um, so after that, I hear about Bitcoin very early, but I was studying in the university and I couldn't pay attention. I was studying computer sciences. So I resumed that topic, the Bitcoin topic, like 4 years after that. So there was a huge gap between first time I heard and the first time could um, make proper research, you know? Um, so one of the first things that I thought was, okay, this is, I know, I understood how this works. It's basically say, okay, it's like torrent, but rather than sharing a movie, we are sharing a ledger. And the ledger has some sort of captchas in order to avoid counterfeits and double spam and things like that. So it was not very hard to understand the basic idea for me. But once you start to dig more and more and more, it's amazing. um, so the first thing that I thought was people think this is not real because they cannot see physically, which is not very, doesn't make sense, but it's what people think. So I tried to import with a friend who runs a Bitcoin ATM company. We tried to import. It was barely impossible because the trade restrictions, the international trade restrictions, the country was and is without dollars. So unless you want to import something very, very important, or unless you have some politics contacts, it's very hard to do it. So we decided to build our own just for fun, you know, something easy. So we bought some. In fact, he runs EasyBit, which is a Bitcoin ATM company. He bought for me the video game arcade machines, which were totally ruined, deprecated. So we bring to the country only the pieces that we need, such as the bill recycler, touch screens, and things like that. That was easier to do it because you can bring it with you when you travel. You don't need to import it. So we built 2 machines in Argentina, which were and are, because they currently are working, educational prototypes, you know, something not like industrial, but it's a very cool design. It looks like a video game, but it's a Bitcoin ATM. And that it seems that it worked to impulse the adoption in Argentina at some point, because after that, another company next year, Athena Bitcoin, decided to start operating in the country. During that time, ECB moved to other things because they internal purposes, and they couldn't pay me a salary or anything like that. So Athena Bitcoin proposed me to work with them as a head of IT and innovation, and we launched 12 Bitcoin ATMs in the country. I think that's very powerful because you have now Bitcoin ATMs in Walmart supermarkets and mall and shopping malls, and that places are places where normal people are, not Bitcoin weirdos like us. So I think that's amazing because now people can see it, and they understand that exists. And for example, we saw that people that moved from Venezuela because their country is far worse than ours in terms of economy. They are using Bitcoin ATMs to send money abroad and help their family, which is what really matters. Um, so I can see that people use it because it has several use cases. Uh, but because in other countries you only see it as a way to speculate. But I can tell you about several ways that people use it. Even if you have a company, you don't need to be in troubles and in like you don't need to use it because you don't have other alternative or something like that. For example, if you want to import something in the country, they will allow you in terms of licenses and things like that. But the problem is that again, because there is no dollars, which is what the country needs, they will refuse you the payment. But you can pay with Bitcoin and they don't care because they want people making business here, but they need to be sure that they are not going to be without dollars from one day to the other. I mean, we can discuss why that happens, and it's a long talk, but I think if the administration is smart enough, they will understand that this could help them more than the damage that could cause, that it's practically nothing because it's all voluntarism.
I totally agree with you, but I need to tell you, if we think that we can change the world in a day, then I can tell you Rome was not built in a day. I think we need to start with educating kids. Kids have the future. In 10 years' time, my kid is now 14 years old. She understands the need of Bitcoin. She will start using Bitcoin. In 10 years' time, for her, Bitcoin is the normal thing in the world, or whatever cryptocurrency will survive. So I think it's very important that there is a focus on kids. Of course, we can focus on teaching people of our age it, most of
Yeah,
them will already be settled and just use it for making money. But if you start to educate those 2 billion people that are unbanked at the moment, and if you confront them with something that they can connect to this monetary system and order something online, then Bitcoin will be the first use case for them. Not the bank system, but Bitcoin saved their life.
exactly.
Bitcoin gave them the connection to this online world. And if we make sure as a community that those people are being connected to this system and this new monetary system of cryptocurrencies, I think then you win the most. And your country is one of the big examples. Argentina. I think it's good that the Bitcoin ATMs are in the supermarkets. I'm working together with a company in Spain, Bitnovo. They make it possible that there are 30,000 Bitcoin ATMs in supermarkets and stores where you can buy cigarettes and everything. But still, the need for Bitcoin is not as big in Spain and France as it is in Argentina or Venezuela. So maybe it's a good connection for you that I connect you with Bitnovo, and
Yeah,
you make
sure.
it
That would be
like
nice.
go viral over there.
I'd like to
Well,
ask because Tone Vase talks about it in his presentation that he believes that Bitcoin will be adopted first in developed countries because there is all the infrastructure, there is all the businesses that will take on Bitcoin. And like with many technologies, what we see is first the rich people make use of it, and then it's the businesses, and then the last step is really the masses and the poor people. Although with Bitcoin really, it seems like a grassroots bottom up kind of thing. But can you confirm, Santiago, also that view that basically, because basically what Ton Vase I think argues is, in Argentina or in countries where there's so different problems, for them, of course, they can use Bitcoin maybe to get out of country, to store value better and safer. But the problems in that country are still so severe that Bitcoin really doesn't change so much. It may be good for the individual, but they have different problems that they need to solve first. So what is your view on that?
well, I agree that it's very naive thinking that only because a specific percentage, a specific fraction of people that use Bitcoin is people in need. It's very naive to think that people in need as a whole will be a huge universe of people. Unfortunately, that's not happening. I mean, if you go to a favela, Argentinian favela, which is called Villa, people do not use Bitcoin in big percentages. But it is true that a lot of people does. So it depends what are you comparing with. If you're comparing with poor people and people that use Bitcoin in that universe, it's very little. But if you compare the whole universe of Bitcoiners in Argentina, I'm not that sure what is the fraction that they represent. I know people use Bitcoin even without knowing that they are using Bitcoin. For example, now there is a lot of capital restrictions. So people that want to move from the country, they cannot send dollars abroad. Of course, they are not going to send pesos. It's not accepted in the rest of the world. Or euros or whatever. So they need to change the pesos for something else. And sometimes they go to specific places and they send the money through Bitcoin, but they don't know. The place where they go to do the transaction use Bitcoin in the behind the curtains, you know. So I quite sure that that is happening also with the remittances, people that send money to Paraguay, to Bolivia, to Peru. They go to a place, they give the money to someone else, and that people is using Bitcoin, and they can offer a lower fee than, for example, Western Union. So they are having some benefits from this technology, even without knowing that they are having some benefits of this technology, which is something good too.
Yeah, most people think that Bitcoin is kind of, you know, just speculative asset. It's too volatile to ever be adopted. It's not money at all. Nobody accepts it. And then, Didi, you live on Bitcoin, right? Can you maybe guide us a little bit through what kind of services you use, how you use it, and how it's even possible to completely drop fiat?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
First, to come back to the story before, you know, it was not the rich people that used Bitcoin the first. It were the criminals, you know, that were using Bitcoin. The criminals outsmart the whole world always. So every time criminals start to adopt technology like internet of Bitcoins. And the second thing I want to say about the discussion is, I agree that the rich people afterwards will adopt Bitcoin maybe faster, but assume that there is an option for the poorer people all over the world, and a simplified option for them to use Bitcoin, you know, by using their telephone and messenger app or whatever. As soon as that is possible, those people will understand in a simplified, easy way how to use Bitcoin, and then the adoption will occur over there as well. So for us, living on Bitcoin is like a game, you know. For me, it's a game. I don't hate banks. Banks gave me a lot in the past, you know. They gave me my house and all the things I needed at that point. But at the moment I'm playing this game, how can I live without using a bank? And this is very simple. I can pay directly with Bitcoin. I can buy coupons online to spend in stores with Bitcoin. I can use Bitcoin prepaid credit cards. You can use Bitcoin like in 20 different ways at the moment. You know? And sometimes I pay directly. This is what I love the most, of course, because then you support the community and the miners and everything behind it. But sometimes, yeah, I need to go online to a website and buy a coupon, and I spend this coupon in a supermarket. That's possible. But all those possibilities make me happy because I'm not using the banking system. And the less money goes around the banks, the more money will go to the crypto people, and the more we will disrupt the system as we're supposed to. Because I really believe that all people in the world need to have an equal chance of living. It doesn't, you know. I think it doesn't need to matter where you were born. I think we all need to have the same opportunity. So for living with Bitcoin, you know, we also have this Wirex Bitcoin card, you know, where you can pay everywhere where Visa is supported, so in every store and everything. We have a BitSack card. This one is not connected to the banks or KYC, but that one is just, you can send your Bitcoins and then you can spend them, and Visa is accepted as well. Again, we buy coupons online, we book flights online, we book hotels and flights using Excel Trip. I think that the website is called xceltrip.com. You can book flights, hotels, everything 20% cheaper than booking.com or your flight. More than 400 flight agencies are on board, and more than 1.5 million hotels and apartments. So that's living. So groceries you cover with the cards or with coupons, and then you just need to search for entertainment that you can pay with Bitcoin. And if you just talk to people, if you go to an amusement park, like a small scale amusement park in Bulgaria, and they tell them, hey man, we are going to have fun, but can we pay in Bitcoin? Let me teach you how. You make this a game. You educate them, they will say yes, and it's okay. You just need to take away the fear of the people that accept Bitcoin, that they are accepting something very volatile. So if you make it possible for them to exchange it back to their safe haven, euro, dollar, whatever they believe is safe. I don't believe they are safe, but they do. Then you create a game of living out of crypto, and then it's not that difficult anymore. It was difficult 3 years ago, when I needed to exchange Bitcoins on localbitcoins.com and all that stuff, and you need to take huge risks by going into an alley to exchange your Bitcoin for cash. But we are, we are past that phase in Bitcoin. It's really easy. If people start watching our Instagram videos we publish every week, and YouTube videos, they see how we pay, they see how we live, they see how we ask people, can we pay with Bitcoin, please? So it's not that difficult anymore. Bitcoin's ATM are all over the world, so you can always cash your Bitcoins to cash if you need cash, and then that way you also surpass the banking system, because you go to a Bitcoin reseller that gives you the Bitcoin, and you exchange it for cash and you use the cash. For me, it's a game to live without banks. And that game is the end goal, that I can live fully just on cryptocurrency direct payments. We are not that far yet, but when you are creative, there are many beautiful solutions to live just on Bitcoin.
Yeah, awesome. Santiago, maybe you also have a
Yes.
comment on where you see Bitcoin next year. As you might know, the whole conference is dedicated to take a look forward and kind of discuss where Bitcoin will be, what will happen. I think one interesting point is maybe the Bitcoin ATM side. That's one of the parts which is an on ramp technically, right? And there, of course, the regulator body can act. So do you think all Bitcoin ATMs in most countries will be they will have to obey KYC regulations? And what's your general view? What will happen next year?
Okay, regarding to the Bitcoin ATMs, that currently is happening. The Bitcoin ATMs have KYC capabilities, and depending the country, they will work in one way or another. I think that if you run a business like that, it's logical that you need to use that kind of things. But if the customers are not happy with that, they can try the first operation with that, which is something that they see in the supermarket or whatever, and they can move to another option later. So it's just one option more that is there. We are not forcing anybody to use our currency or ATMs, which is not what we can say about the system that we live in. I mean, you need to accept national currency wherever you live. It's mandatory. You need to pay the taxes with that. You cannot pay with something else. So, in one hand, it could happen that the restrictions are more and more in the ATM side. But there is so many other ways. It's not needed to have ATMs. You can have prepaid cards not like Visa or MasterCard. You can have like redeem cards that you buy with cash or something like that for smaller amounts. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I don't think the countries will cooperate each other to make some sort of global restriction on Bitcoin because the game theory, some countries do not like the supremacy of the dollar, and they like maybe other aspect of USA, but they don't like that. So they will prefer to have options, even if they do not understand the other options. It's just like a chess move. You're not going to do something that could affect you. Of course, maybe it's one or two countries only, but that it's enough to start the domino effect. Regarding to the roadmap, I'm very excited about the new features and the scaling on the second off-chain, I mean, second layer of chain. I attend to a lot of conferences this year: Baltic Honey Badger, Hacker Congress Parallelipolis, Transylvania Conference, Lightning Network, LabitConf, and I saw the new things that are coming. I tried Lightning Network a lot, and I'm very excited about it. Regarding to the price, I don't care. I mean, I know we have the halving, but we also have empty GOX, that there is still a lot of Bitcoins that are going to go back to the owners at some point. And we're talking like 140 days of emission post halving, which is a lot. So I'm not going to say that the price is going up this year, because I don't think so. But if I'm wrong, that's good.
Yeah, great, thanks. Also, maybe Didi, some final statement. We have our next speaker in the room now. Of course, guys, Didi and Santiago, you can also stay with us. So let me see if I can unmute Yavin so you can also join. Unmute.
So I will do this last statement and then I will leave because I have a next meeting in 20 minutes.
Sure.
So I think it's a good timing. And my last statement is, guys, just make a hell lot of fun in life and just enjoy this very beautiful technical evolution that will disrupt the world and have a huge social impact on many people's life. We also could be living in time of wars. We are just living in one hell of a beautiful time that we are taking power back to the people. And that's exactly what Bitcoin and blockchain are amazing tools to do. So whatever reason you are in crypto, man, I'm your friend. I just love the fact that you're here. And let's fight this fight all together and just change the world and yeah, just make it a better place to live for all of us. Santiago,
awesome.
It was nice meeting you, Yavin.
Just one last thing. One last thing, Didi, where can people follow you? How can they reach out to you?
So if they Google the Bitcoin family, so we have the website, thebitcoinfamily.com, but Instagram, the Bitcoin family, Facebook, the Bitcoin family. The kids started even a TikTok show, the Bitcoin family. So all social media, Twitter, it's my name, Didi Taihuttu. Yeah, if you just Google the Bitcoin family, it's almost difficult to not find us. Not if you're living in China or in some countries where Google plus your results, then you need to use this firewall, and then you will find us as well.
Awesome, thanks. Then best of success in the future, and we probably meet each other at some conference or at some place, some Bitcoin meetup again.
We will drink a Bacardi Coke together and have some fun.
Awesome, thank you.
Bye, guys.
So Santiago, we are joined on Yavin, who is also from the journalistic side of things. Hey on, how is it going?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well, very well. As Santiago, also you got some time left to join, or you also need to go at some
yeah,
point?
I would like to round one of the ideas that Bitcoin family guy, I forgot the name, sorry.
Didi.
Said, Didi, thank you. I like this idea about teaching new generations. And I would like to say that one of the most simple ways to do that is with the gaming industry, because we are seeing now video games which accept Lightning Network payments. And that's amazing, because now, do you remember when you play any kind of game like Arkanoid or Pac-Man or Super Mario, you had these points that were like just the Hall of Fame and that's all. Now you can withdraw that points, which are Satoshis, and if you lose, you can buy like a new life with more Lightning Network, and that's the business model. And I think that's a very smart and funny way to teach kids that this is afterly money. So I really like that idea. I think it's very educative. And it's one of the few things that could compete against the system, because the system is like mandatory. You need to use this money and they will be in school during a lot of years. So you need to have some sort of a strong first view person experience, like something that you can experience. And I think that's the way for kids and teenagers and young adults.
Awesome. So I didn't get you if you need to run as well, or you still have some time left.
I have a little bit more. Yeah, why not?
Okay. Then let's be joined by Yavin finally. Hey,
Hey,
where are you joining us from?
so right now I'm in New York.
All right. So then, I don't know, do you introduce yourself or you want to start with your presentation straight away? Can you share your screen or do I have to help you somehow?
Can you allow me to share my screen? Oh, I got it. Okay, let's see. Present. Share. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Then I'll leave it to you. Yeah, so you introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
The stage
Thank
is
you.
yours.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Cointelligence. Cointelligence is research and education platform. We started as a research company and we moved on to create Cointelligence Academy. When we started, we did the research and analysis for blockchain and crypto companies. We developed a rating system for ICOs, STOs, coins, and exchanges. And at the beginning of this year, we started Cointelligence Academy. And a couple of months ago, we relaunched the Academy as an online platform. And we're very excited to have a few thousand registered students already, and we're expanding our education classes. We started with the basic 101 class, and now we're expanding it to different types of classes like crypto trading class, smart contracts, token economics, and so on and so on. Just to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm considered to be a serial entrepreneur. I've been an angel investor for more than 10 years now. At the moment, I'm completely focused on funding Cointelligence, as it has been since we started about 2.5 years ago. And I was also and still is an advisor and mentor to different startups. And I did that before I got involved into with crypto, and I continue to do it these days as well. And I'd like to talk about due diligence and why it's so important. Obviously, everybody knows that everybody involved in the industry knows that there's too many scams out there. And I will show a few examples of scammers in my presentation. But the thing that I would like to highlight more than talking about the scammers is talking about the scam enablers. And that's a huge problem we have in our industry. And I think that people should be aware of it and should also make sure that they don't take a part in it. And I'll explain shortly what I mean. So let's just dive into a few examples of scams. So we've all seen and heard about the ICO craze, and we know that there has been so many scams out there. This is just a list of examples of ICOs that we called out as scams. And obviously, this is an example list, and it's not the full list. Beside the ICOs that we called out, and getting back to the other problem that I'm referring to, is that the scammers is not the only problem, and we have the scam enablers. The scam enablers are the crypto blockchain publishers. It's the crypto blockchain event organizers, and I'm not talking about this event, obviously. It's the rating websites. It's the influencers and celebrities. It's the YouTube reviewers, and it's the podcasters. And the reason that I'm mentioning them, and I'll show a few examples, is that it's not bad enough that we have the scammers that are out there looking to scam people and steal their money. And we're talking about, in many cases, mom and pop investors and people that cannot afford to lose their life savings. But it still happens. It's still happening, and it's still happening as we speak. Obviously, this is one example that I always like to show as a huge, very well-known company called Red Bull endorsing a scam. Future Coin was a clear scam. There's no question about that. And as we can see in this cover, Coin Rivet covered the story, we can see that they endorsed it. Now, the mom and pop investors don't really understand too well. And if they see Red Bull endorsing a company, then it means that maybe they should invest in it. It's a huge problem. This is an example of rating websites giving a high score to a scammy ICO. Xsearch ICO got a 3.4 out of 5 on Wiser ICO. They got a 4 out of 5 on ICO Holder. They got a 7 out of 10 on Fox ICO. 8.2 out of 10 on this website. And guess what? They got a 0 on Cointelligence because it's a clear scam. We proved it beyond any doubt. So you ask yourself, how come they got a high score on the rating websites? I can guess, I don't have evidence for it, but I can guess that they just got paid. And when people get paid, they will shill anything. This is a scam, a different type of scam, a data scam. Initiative Q is a project that claimed to be the next Bitcoin. They actually, Mr. Saar Wilf actually announced that they are worth trillions of US dollars. You can see Udi Wartheimer, a very well-known influencer in our industry and a person that really knows what he's talking about, attacking Mr. Saar Wilf, saying that his arrogant claims of made-up currency worth 2 trillion US dollars, and you don't even need to listen to my opinion, listen to him. He knows what he's talking about. And this is an example of the MLM type of email that Initiative Q is sending to people. And it's brainwashing people to think that it's the next Bitcoin. They can become millionaires. And so far, Initiative Q got signups by millions of people. Millions of people already signed up. And I got people like, for example, my kid's teacher come up to me and ask me if she should sign up and if it's really the next cryptocurrency. And you know what Initiative Q developed back then? A landing page. They only had a landing page. And a couple of months ago, they launched their application, an application that I wouldn't let one of my junior developers create, with all due respect. So claiming that you're worth trillions of dollars when you didn't do anything, that's pathetic. And that's a scam to me. And in this example, you can see Miss Layla London, an award-winning journalist, actually helping Mr. Saar Wilf with his initiative. And she published a story that you cannot see in this slide because she changed it after I approached her. And she published a story talking about the next Bitcoin ? And after I approached her and asked her what kind of knowledge and experience she has in order to call something the next Bitcoin, then she changed the article and you can see the new headline of the article. This is an award-winning journalist publishing content on not other than Forbes. Another example is CNBC enabling a scam. In this example, we can see that Mr. Ranoir, the host of the Crypto Trader Show, is enabling a scam which says that they were able to compress a file from 90 megabytes into 472 bytes. This is complete rubbish. It doesn't exist. I consulted with 12 different CTOs. They all said the same. It's complete bullshit. Moving on to the next example is Mr. Nick Aiton. Mr. Nick Aiton did an ICO, and he raised funds for a blockchain movie. Yeah, you hear me correctly. He raised funds to create a blockchain movie. And not only he raised funds into this ridiculous project, he also had a fight with his co-founder, and they split the project. They had a fork, and they are running the same project right now, but the investors, they have no clue about it. On top of that, they all also lost funds, about a couple of hundreds of thousands of funds. And on top of that, Mr. Nick Aiton was a director of a company that scammed 13 million pounds from pension money from the UK, from UK citizens. And on top of all of that, Mr. Nick Aiton actually signed a contract between his advisory, Chain Started Advisory, and the ICO that did the raise of funds, 21 million, the blockchain movie, and he loaned from that company to that company without asking for permission from any of the investors. And when I asked him who signed on the loan agreement, he said that he signed on both parties. Another example of a celeb endorsing a scam, Steven Seagal, unfortunately, very, very well-known figure, or at least he was very well-known when I was a teenager. He did all the fighting type of movies. We have examples of corrupted ICO and STO advisors, where you can see that they joined the team without actually knowing anything about the project or the team. As you can see the response at the bottom. And this is another example of a corrupted ICO and STO advisor. This is an example of how the scammers are using tools and technologies to create fake identities of people and publish them on the website, so you will not be able to find the fake image, because at the beginning the scammers used all kinds of celebrity images or just random Joe or John to use in the presentations or the white papers or the websites, but now they're using these type of tools. And now we get to the point where you ask me, okay, but this is the type of work that the regulators are supposed to do. It's not something that you or your team is supposed to do. So this is a great example of how the regulators are actually ignoring very serious scams. In this example, my partner, Hossam Azawi, actually approached the SEC a couple of times and reporting to them about this ICO, Envion. And only, as we can see here, only after a very, very long time, the Swiss SEC, FIMA, actually announced it as a scam. But that was after people lost tens of millions of dollars. And it could have been saved from them if they acted faster. This is an example of the police not doing enough when there's a clear scam and they do not act to apprehend the criminals. And in this example, we can see an event called CC Forum, who actually disinvited me from speaking about the scammers that they had at the event. And they knew that I am planning to call out the scammers. And this is exactly the problem that I was talking about when I started this presentation today. The problem is not only the scammers, it's also the scam enablers. This is a scam enabling event. I'm talking about CC Forum. They allowed the biggest scammers in our industry to get on the stage. One example is LA Token CEO, which is a company that keeps cheating and lying to clients, to founders, to the public. They actually list security tokens without having the proper regulation, and they are acting against so many Western countries' regulations, and they keep doing it because they get the stage. They get to promote their agenda in different blockchain and crypto events. Actually, they're running a Davos event right now, claiming to as if they are representing Davos themselves. So these were just a couple of examples, and this example is probably one of the worst example out there. OneCoin is a scam that not only made people lose more than 4 billion euros as until today, and it's probably much, much more, but the 4 billions were actually proven already. Not only it happened, right now there is someone in the UK where I'm based, and the reason that I'm mentioning the UK is because you don't say about the UK that it's a developing country, or maybe the regulator doesn't exist, or maybe there's no proper police. There is, but they completely ignore the fact that there is someone in the UK right now that continue to sell OneCoin, and they don't do anything about that. And another example of scam enabling is Cointelegraph actually allowing ads to run for a clear Ponzi MLM scheme called Carrot Bars. And even though we approached them and we told them about it, they continued to run the ads. I have a couple of other examples, but let me check my time. How I am with the time?
Yeah, I think it's good if you would wrap up and then talk about it, because it's probably endless. It's an endless story with the examples.
Absolutely, I am definitely going to wrap this up, and I just want to give one last example of the crypto exchanges situation. I mentioned before that we did the rating for crypto exchanges, and this is an example of a crypto exchange that got a 1 out of 10, and the reason, among other reasons, is because of the trust issue. And we have to remember that many of the crypto exchanges out there at the moment are not regulated, and they allow themselves to act in a very bad way, and not only without regulation, but also cheating their customers. So I'll just finish off, and we can discuss. Okay, so this is just to finish off the presentation, and I'd like to add to everything that I mentioned. And obviously the presentation is a very negative presentation. But I'd like to add to what my speaker colleagues mentioned before I started my speech today. As much as I look at the negative sides of blockchain and crypto, I can tell you that I am one of the biggest evangelists out there. And I think that blockchain and crypto is the future. And that's another reason that I get very worked up about the scammers, because people a lot of the times come up to me and say, okay, but the financial systems way before crypto were very, very corrupted. And I explain to them that it doesn't matter, because we're trying to change the world now. We're trying to create a new future. As mentioned before, our kids now will learn about crypto, and it will be very obvious to them, as it is obvious to people about saving their money in the bank, which is not always the safest option. And I just want to say that people need to be careful. They need to do their own due diligence. They need to make sure that they don't invest in something that they cannot afford to lose. But without any doubt, blockchain and crypto is the future for all of us. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, On. It was a really great presentation, especially because I think,
these examples that you researched there, like it's, I mean, for someone who is sane, you know, and is of course is maybe educated, it's laughable, right? So it's sad to see that they are so successful with these scams. But in the way you present it, it's like, you know, it's actually really funny, right? If you look at it from distance, actually really funny how I mean, it's really bad. Of course, you shouldn't laugh about it, but it's insane. So one thing, you know, I hear a lot of times is that people say, yeah, you know, we need more regulation. We need to shut this down. It cannot be that way because people need to be protected. Investors need protected. And that's why we need powerful regulatory bodies, powerful governments to put everything in order and regulate it in every detail, basically. But basically, what I learned from your presentation is that they actually failed. So the regulation doesn't help at all. And bad people will, even if there's regulation, they will circumvent it anyways, right? So they will always find some loopholes. They will always find new advertising techniques and so forth. So do you think it's really time that people wake up? And as you mentioned, I think the solution is education and self-determination and doing your own research instead of relying on a nanny state, on a nanny government, on a regulatory that actually prohibits people from doing their own research, because then everybody's like, yeah, you know, it's not my fault. Like if there's this body that can be blamed, then yeah, you know, I'm not responsible here. So do you think now with Bitcoin, we will see a shift on consumer protection, basically, that instead of one monopoly claiming to have the best customer protection of all, we will have more like the market protecting the people by just, you know, different companies like yours, for example, you know, providing great research in depth that shows what's going on, and also the companies themselves kind of protecting by just like, you know, doing due diligence on each other.
So it's a really a great question, and I think that we are at the beginning of a serious long journey. First of all, you mentioned before that when I present it, I make it look in some cases as if it's funny. And obviously, I'm the last person on earth to think something like that, because I also talk to victims on a regular basis, and I feel their pain. But yeah, you are right. I mean, it's you can look at it in a funny way, because it's so pathetic that people are actually able to scam so many people for so much such big amounts of money. And I think that the following should happen. First of all, we've seen that self-regulation did not work yet. I'm not saying that there's no room for self-regulation. I'm a huge fan of the ICO mechanism. I think that ICOs will return. I don't know when. I don't know if it will take a couple of years or much longer, like 10, 15 years. But I do think they will come back. Beside that, I think that we have to go through the regulation process at the moment. There's no chance that crypto can succeed at the moment, especially after everything that we've seen in the last few years with all the scammers. And we need to remember, there's only a small percentage of people that are using crypto at the moment. And that's why I'm saying it's only the beginning. And I think that after we go through the phase of regulation, and most of the exchanges will be regulated, and a lot of the companies will have to be regulated, like custodians and wallets and any type of brokers and so on. But after that phase, I think that we will see huge growth with decentralized systems. And I think that self-regulation will be much, much better and actually will work. So it's very clear that the message from me will be that it's a process. And I think that we should work with regulation at the moment. And like you mentioned, they're not doing enough, but they are trying. And at least the US and the UK governments are really, really trying, and are being very supportive and pro-crypto, but also in a caution way. So that was a long answer to your question. Can you? You're muted, Leon.
Yeah, sorry, Santiago, you want to comment here?
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to ask to Yavin something. So she showed us some obvious for us scams, which are not obvious for people that are not involved. But my question is, what do you think about not that obvious scams? For example, it could be projects that they are trying to do something barely impossible, but that sounds good. For example, made safe, or projects that do not make sense at all, that they are doing something that doesn't make sense, like NEM. Why using a blockchain in NEM? And we can see that both examples participating with universities in different countries. So maybe the made safe example is not that bad because they are trying something very, very impossible, but it could be interesting in academic perspective. But in the other way, in the other case, I don't see the point. I mean, why a university would be collaborating with them? That doesn't make sense.
Thank you for the question. Actually, it's a topic that I've been discussing and thinking about a lot over this year. And my answer is divided into a few parts. First of all, I really think that we need to be careful when entrepreneurs are trying to change the world and doing something, like you said, so strange and so different and so difficult. We need to be very, very careful to call them scammers. And the best example is the constant fights that we see between Bitcoiners and Ethereum guys. And Bitcoiners keep calling Ethereum a scam. And if you ask me, that's very, very wrong. Now, I have to tell you before I continue my answer, I am not taking any sides with any specific coin. There are a few coins that I invested myself. I never disclosed it because I don't want to support publicly these coins over other coins. And I think that calling a project like Ethereum a scam is very wrong, because many people talk about the fact that they will not be able to scale, and many people talk about the fact that they will not be able to succeed. But with all due respect, I'm pretty sure that it was the same about Bitcoin when Bitcoin started. And we cannot talk about projects as if they are scams when they are not trying to cheat and steal and lie to investors and the public. And Ethereum is probably one of the best examples, because we see a huge community and we see many people are still working on Ethereum, the project itself, and many other projects based on Ethereum. And I think that it's the worst thing that you can do is call Ethereum a scam. Now, Ethereum is just one example. And I'm saying again, I'm not taking sides. I'm not publicly supporting Ethereum over other projects or something like that. I'm just giving that as an example. And I think that on top of everything that I said, these coin wars are very bad for all of us. Very, very bad, because they make us all look bad in front of the public that doesn't understand these type of projects. And the last part of my answer would be that, yes, there are entrepreneurs that we call mini scammers. And the reason that we're calling them mini scammers is because not only it's obvious that they are bullshitting everyone with their made up project, like landing blockchain on the moon, which is obviously completely pathetic to even suggest. But seriously, there was a project like that 2 years ago. And there's others types of these types of projects that we've seen. But we have to be extremely careful before we call these projects scams, and really do proper research about them, and make sure that it's really non-legit.
Please stay with us, because on this comment to discuss whether Ethereum can keep its promise and can stay safe from being called a scam, or whether it fails to deliver its stated promise, and then it may be right to call it a scam. We have a new guest on the lineup, so please welcome Obi. I need to ask Obi to help me and introduce himself a little bit. But I think it's a really great debate right now, so the perfect time for Obi to start, because I think he has a story to share on this comment here.
Yes, he
Hello.
does.
Yes, you do. Hello. I didn't realize on that you're based in the UK. We should try and meet up. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so my name is Obi Nwosu. I just laughed at your landing on the moon. I have to find out more about that. My name is Obi Nwosu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CoinFloor, and we're the UK's longest running Bitcoin now, soon to be Bitcoin again exchange. So we started in 2013. The actual programmatic exchange launched in early 2014. It launched in the shadow of Mt. Gox. So Mt. Gox was running for several months with actually in the form of a fractional reserve. It didn't have all the balances it's supposed to have. So we, like many exchanges at the time, promised to perform something called proof of custody or provable solvency. But unlike every other exchange on the planet, we kept it on. And so we've been doing monthly provable solvency audits since 2014. We're approaching our 70th provable solvency audit in next year. And we think that's one way where you don't just have to trust all our promises of being reliable and trustworthy. We prove it on a monthly basis that we hold our customers balances. And we just keep that with everything else we were doing. And one of those is our choice of cryptocurrencies we list. We are known as being quite conservative. We at Max had 3 cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum. But we have 4 criteria we measure cryptocurrencies against. Many people now, with the announcement last week that or earlier this week, that we're going Bitcoin only and dropping Ethereum, came to the view that we're Bitcoin maximalists. We're not. We're just no BS maximalists. So we look at 4 categories, and unfortunately, on one of those, Ethereum has no longer reached the requisite requirement, and we had to drop it. So really briefly, those 4 categories are these. 1, it should be a value-driven cryptocurrency. Now, this is really simple. We are an exchange giving people access to cryptocurrencies. They should have a currency. They should have at their heart some concept that they will retain value. If they are saying that the value doesn't matter, then I don't see the point of us listing it. Most people try to say that, so that doesn't cut off many, but you'll be surprised. There are some cryptocurrencies who don't believe that it should have any value. The second is technical maturity and resilience. So there's 2 parts to this. One is that whatever mechanism they use to protect the chain, whether it's proof of work, which is the most proven right now, and maybe proof of stake or delegated proof of stake, there needs to be a belief, or if we look at how it's structured, a confidence that it's well protected from evil guys or hackers trying to manipulate the system. And also technical maturity in terms of a stable blockchain. One thing that gets incredibly annoying are lots of forks, lots of changes. As an exchange, these are a massive distraction from actually serving your customers. And so if something is not relatively stable, and if then it fails that test. And then finally, then the last 2 are community strength and support. So this is financial industry support, general community support, long-term investor or hodler support, technical developer support, etc. And then finally, regulatory clarity. And this was a hard one, but we are looking to be a regulated exchange. Come the 10th of January next year, the UK will be within a regulatory regime. And this is a long time coming. We've spoke to all the regulators and various authorities in the UK about this. And so we're pleased to see that, because it's one more line that we need to cross in terms of maturation of this industry. We know that regulators are comfortable with Bitcoin. They're also comfortable with Ethereum, and we believe they're comfortable with Bitcoin Cash. But if it's not clear that they're comfortable with it, again, there's no point us listing it. Now, Ethereum made the cut on all these 4 until recently. specifically in terms of technical maturity, when a number of the core developers of Ethereum openly came out saying that Ethereum wasn't up to the task it was supposed to be designed to solve, and they were coming out with Ethereum 2. Now, no matter how you look at it, objectively, if the developers who are responsible for maintaining the blockchain tell you that it's not good enough, then Ethereum is not good enough. And so at that point, we had to take the view that it doesn't meet our criteria for listing. Now, when Ethereum 2 comes out and it's matured, again, when it first comes out, their view is to not actually use it for a period of time, between a few months to several years. But when they say it's good enough and it's proven, and a number of the experiments that they're trying to perform prove themselves, we'll happily list it again. But if it doesn't, we won't. And that's what made us make the decision. Now, the response from the industry was immense. So we didn't expect it. We believed it was one of the most popular posts on CoinDesk for the entire 2019. We had multiple people who were working in other exchanges contacting us and congratulating us for the gutsy move and wishing that their exchange had the guts to do the same. So we were surprised by this, but we probably hit a nerve in the community, I think. And as to On's point, I think there's a greater point that I think people are getting tired of lack of clarity. I don't consider Ethereum a scam, but I do think that there are a lot of things in this space. There are scams, there are complications, there are lots of noise. And what people want is clarity and clearness and a lack of noise. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, indeed. The post was very, very viral. And especially I think that, the Bitcoin maximalist community responded. And I think they really see that, the move is wise because ultimately you also de-risk your own business, and customers appreciate eventually that they were doing business with a partner, that stayed straight and that didn't endorse and didn't make it easy to invest in shit coins, for example, right? So I think that's just, it should be everyone's intrinsic motivation as an exchange or a business to think for the long term. But I think that's also kind of the problem at the moment. What we were discussing before is that like the presentation of On, was just insane. I mean, it's impossible that so many people seem to fall for scams that are so obvious. So I think we, I don't know if we have time to go into the technical debate where if Ethereum is a scam, because I suggest you all to listen to Giacomo Zucco's presentation here at the conference that touches this as well. So maybe just leave an open discussion now on the future of Bitcoin. I think maybe Santiago also wants to comment a little bit, and then we can have a chat.
Yeah, I would like to ask Obi from the exchange perspective and this decision that they made regarding to Ethereum. What are your thoughts with stable coins? Keeping in mind that we have two kinds of stable coins, which one is collateral assets backing up the peg, zero-sum game of derivatives such as DAI or money on chain. That is my question.
So our view on stablecoins. So we are a fiat to crypto focused exchange. So I think there's two types of exchanges that have banking and exchanges that don't. And so if you have banking, what you'll find is your users are much more skewed towards investors, and they just want a way into the crypto world. And our need to use stablecoins is much reduced over other exchanges. We believe that things like stablecoins effectively enable the crypto to crypto exchange world. If you go back to 2013, 2014, there were decentralized exchanges, but the trading volumes were basically non-existent because they didn't have the equivalent of a bank account. They didn't have something that you can use to hedge against hedge against the cryptocurrency. And so that's the purpose that stablecoins perform. They're like a decentralized bank account, effectively. There are two types. There are ones that are backed by a currency. They're easy to understand, but you have to trust the stablecoin issuer. And then there are others that take some form of algorithmic approach. And DAI is probably right now one of the most well-known amongst them. We continue to look at these. They are an interesting idea because effectively they're taking the concept of a central bank and putting it into a bank issuance and putting it into a token. But it would be interesting to see whether or what happens if they actually have to lead, if there's a big move in the market, and whether the mechanisms in place can handle that, or whether over time they will descend into being a centralized or centrally governed coin, similar to any other government issued fiat currency. So will they end up becoming almost a commercial fiat currency?
My question to Obi is, if you think about the future, do you see a slight chance even that Bitcoin could become stable at a certain market cap, and then what would happen to other currencies?
So this is my personal view, is that I think over time Bitcoin will become more and more stable, but we might be talking over periods of decades. But I do believe that's the case. Now, what will happen to other currencies? There's always going to be a need for the fiat currencies of geographically physical countries. If you live, we exist in the physical world, we take up physical space, so we have to exist in that world. And just the nature of people means that you're going to have someone managing that group, and they are going to want to collect some sort of tithe or tax in order to do that, and therefore they're going to want to control their own money, and they will issue their own fiat currency. That fiat currency might be a cryptocurrency backed by backed cryptocurrency, may not be, but a completely decentralized cryptocurrency will not be able to exist by itself. I do think, though, that there is a potential that Bitcoin can continue to grow to a significant extent over where it is right now.
Okay, interesting. I'd like to maybe, because we had the discussion before, come back to the initial regulatory perspective here. So Didi was on our stream here in the very beginning, and he's someone who is full on anti-bank, says I don't need a bank. I just use Bitcoin and that's it. And so we see, Bitcoin came out of this problem that the banks kept the market for themselves. Innovation was really, really hard. They protected themselves. They protected their market. They built enormous regulatory frameworks, impossible for any normal person, for any startup even to comply with. And now you have the problem, right? So there's Bitcoin, which is completely outside of this gilded cage. And we discussed earlier, the problem is people fall for scams because they're not used to an open market, because they're always protected by this by the modern welfare state, that saves everyone, that gives money, that bails out banks and people. So what do you expect, maybe also to on this question again, Bitcoin will not be able to be regulated on the technology side, right? So only on exchanges, on Bitcoin ATMs, on where it touches the fiat world, on the bridge. So banks will block the bridges and so forth. So right now we see kind of the approach that I think the big players in the market, the big established exchanges, banks, we try to invite Bitcoin to please join the old system, please join and be nice, and like we need to do coin analysis. But then if you look on Bitcoin Twitter, right, they say no, like we're gonna stay private, we're gonna stay anonymous, we will innovate. There's Lightning Network layer 2 now. We don't need that stuff. Some people can play in between, yeah. So maybe the question to both of you: where do you see this ship headed? Will we see more crackdown, more trying governments and regulatory bodies really trying really hard to get rid of any form of let's say free Bitcoin, right? or will the other side win traction, and people will just stop using KYC exchanges, will just not comply with this insane banking regulation that everybody is also super annoyed of, right? Because you have to submit your utility bill every 3 months again and so forth.
Yeah, I'll start. And then
go ahead.
We'll love to hear what On has to say. So I think that both will progress. It's a technology, and people can develop it and improve it upon it in a permissionless way. And there was an attempt with the latest regulation to discuss the idea of regulating software developers who are developing technology for blockchains in the UK. But although the final regulation hasn't come through, they've already intimated the fact that they're not going to do that, because that would basically go against core freedom of speech. And given that that's understood as a base law of freedom of speech, you're going to see innovation on Bitcoin. You're going to see people come up with clever ways to increase fungibility, increase the ability for people to trade in a permissionless, decentralized way, etc., etc. But at the same time, people will have to earn some percentage of their salary in fiat currency, even if it's an amount needed to pay their taxes. And as a result, people will have a substantial amount of income coming in fiat, and they will, if they want to enter this world of crypto, will have to buy it. Now, if you have to buy it on an exchange which is with fiat currency, that exchange will have to be regulated. So as an entryway, as a bridge, they will also need to continue to exist, unless you believe there's a point in time where no fiat currency exists. But as I gave in my previous answers, I think that will never happen. So there will always be a place for regulated exchanges to allow people to enter the world of crypto. But once they've entered that world, they will then be able to have access to all of the functionality and features that are going to be developed over the coming decades.
So if I may add to what you just said, I pretty much agree with what you said, and I'd like to focus on two main aspects here, two factors. One is the fact that if people think that there's going to be mass adoption without regulation, they are very wrong. We had a great adoption and great progress until now. It's amazing that we've had the progress that we had with Bitcoin for the last 10 years, but that's it. It's not going to move forward without regulation. The countries will not allow it, at least most of the Western countries. And as Obi just mentioned, they will block every possible way. If it's the exchanges, they will have to be regulated. If people will need to convert to fiat at any point, it will be blocked with KYC AML unless there's no more fiat. So I completely agree with that. And on top of that, I will say that I do think, as Obi mentioned, it's going to progress in two directions. One is the regulatory framework, and the other one is the open finance, the decentralization of finance, and so on. And we'll have to see what happens with the decentralized systems. But if you ask me about KYC AML, and people a lot of time mix up the fact that with crypto we can have complete economic freedom, and whenever people talk about KYC AML, they think that immediately it's not economic freedom. I don't take that side. I think that as long as you control your crypto and you can use it anytime, anywhere, that's very good. And that's what we should be aiming for. If you would like to convert your crypto into fiat with one of the banks, then there's no other option, because you have the terrorism, you have the money laundering problems, and so on. So it has to happen. And when people tell me that we don't need it, then they just don't understand the terrorism, and they don't understand how it works. and that crypto is a huge problem at the moment for regulators and for countries, and that's why they're not going to just let it continue as it was until now. They will be regulating it, and people will have problems if they will not comply with the regulation. Now, having said all of that, I have to tell you that I hate the way that the legacy banks are behaving. I attack them on a regular basis. Don't get me wrong for a second. The banks are abusing KYC AML regulations. They do not act according to the regulation in a way that is beneficial for the customers. They actually abuse it, and they abuse and the way that they are handling clients. And I know firsthand, because every few months I have an issue with one of the banks. Every few months. Just to give you an example, this year I had an issue with a German-based bank that actually, because I wanted to do a real estate business deal, they actually asked to disclose all my personal bank accounts all over the world. Now, I explained to them, I don't have a problem disclosing one bank account and also disclosing one company's bank account that I own that will show them the source of funds and will allow them to see that it's legitimate money. But to disclose all my personal bank accounts all over the world, that's an outrage. That's an abuse of KYC AML, and there's no regulator that actually demands the bank to do it. It's completely unnecessary. So that was my top up to what Obi mentioned.
Okay, great, guys. I think we had a really good discussion already. So maybe as a last question, because it's a fun it's a fun question that I ask most of the speakers. When will Bitcoin finally go to zero?
Okay, so I will answer this and I will move to other meeting. I think it will go to zero probably when after human civilization collapse, because the computer can still trade. So it's probably that the bots still arbitrage. So probably after the human and after the humanity. I don't know when. I don't know if in these planets or in any other planet, but probably after humanity. And just to finish, I will put here in the chat, in the public chat, my Twitter, just in case someone wants to follow up the Crypto Noticias articles that I write, which are in Spanish, and you can follow up the Spanish speaking scene.
Awesome, Santiago. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, have a good time. I will
You too, thanks.
watch the rest of the conference later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Obi, you wanna take the answer, or should I?
I'll give it a go. I have a very strong suspicion it's around summer of 2258. Exactly. I have no idea if it will go to zero. I'm pretty confident that it's highly unlikely to go to zero as long as we have a functioning internet. Even if it was a bad currency, which it clearly is not, it would still be unlikely to go to zero. But I expect it's far more likely first and for a significant period of time to being stable and being one of the significant currencies in the world. It will start to retreat in value significantly and in a sustained fashion when pretty much inevitably some other cryptocurrency comes up, or currency comes up, which is better in all respects than Bitcoin. There's nothing on the horizon right now, but maybe in 2 years, 50 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, all currencies have a lifetime eventually and they stop.
So my answer is going to be very short. It's actually never.
Okay, I think great answers from both of you. I must say thank you to both. It's been a great pleasure to have you. I wish you best of success with your ongoings there, and hope to see you again. And of course, a nice and full of hugs festive season for the coming days. Feel free to share this link with your business partners, friends, family, to teach them a bit about Bitcoin. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cool.
See you later.
We'll continue the live stream in a little bit. We will have a break now for about, I think, an hour. I think in two hours or something, we will continue. And if you want to join us or have friends that want to join the conference, we have a Twitter link that you can share. Just look for Bitcoin Club Malta on Twitter, and there you will find the pinned post that you can retweet and share. And there's also the direct link to our tickets, so you can get a ticket and then catch the link to our conference page. And on this conference page, you will find all the beautiful speakers. Over 40 speakers have signed up. And especially here in the past hour, we discussed so many things where I immediately thought, hey, this is a good subject to also look into this talk. For example, the discussion of Ethereum for sure is a great piece to put into perspective with somebody like Giacomo Zucco, who has researched it thoroughly. And so I really welcome you to join and to share this conference and make Christmas gifts to your friends by providing sound education. I think that's also a big underlying theme here, and everything that has been talked was kind of agreeing and converging on that the most important thing that needs to happen really is that more people really get more education, really learn more about the things, and gain really prolific insight. And so we will continue, as I said, I think, let me check, what time is it now? So now it's 10, and at 6 p.m. So it's 4 p.m. now, and in 2 hours we will start with Katoshi B, the evening live stream. I mean, here in the US it's still beautiful morning, and I will go have a coffee now and be in a chat with you guys. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for viewing this live stream and being part with us. We also had some questions already, and feel free to drop more questions for the next panel. We will certainly pick them up in the panel discussions. And yeah, so see you at 6 p.m. I'll show you our office pool here, and probably will go a dip later and hodl my breath. So I thought maybe it's a nice experiment for you to see how long I can hold the breath, because a long breath is important in a bear market. Stay tuned. Share the Twitter link. Help us spread the word. Invite your friends to this conference. Invite your friends or family members to learn about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin. The hashtag is Bitcoin Future 2020. And yeah, see you at 6 p.m. Looking forward.